Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining our very first 2020 NAE 4-H YDP Awards webinar. Today we will be focusing on the awards guidelines and requirements in this first webinar, and we'll have another webinar this afternoon at 1 o'clock Central Time to talk about how do you actually enter awards on the in-service, I'm stuck on in-services, on the awards system online. So first of all, my name is Cheryl Newberry, and I am the National Member Recognition Chair and work closely with the regional chairs and chair-elects to disseminate information out across the nation. On with us today is Melissa Henry, and she will be incoming Member Recognition Chair beginning at the Idaho Conference in the fall, and I'm excited to have her stepping up to that leadership position. She's been on this committee for a number of years and will do a great job, I know. Jim, if you will track the comments in the comment box and let me know, because I don't even have it open. If there's a question at any time, feel free to stop me and we'll address them as we go. All right, so let's get started. So first of all, these are the things we're going to talk about today on this particular webinar. First of all, where do we find the awards information? What's the basic criteria for all awards? And then we'll go into specific criteria for each of the different types of awards, from communicator to specialty to service awards. And we'll also talk about the FirstTime Attendee award scholarship. And then we'll also talk about what awards are just judged at the state and national level, as well as which awards have money associated with them, if you're looking for that in particular. So that's what we'll cover in today's webinar. And I'll stop periodically as we finish this section and ask for questions. So feel free to type those in the text box, or if you prefer to ask the question verbally, just unmute your mic and feel free to ask. So first of all, here is the website link on where the information is posted, and my plan is to show you that information, the website, a little bit later in the webinar. So don't worry that you won't get to see it. I will pull up the website at the end of the presentation, and we'll go through those documents. On this particular website, I'll go through how you access the awards page from the main website. And on the main awards page, there is a link to the Open Water website where you'll actually log in and enter your applications, and we'll walk you through that in a minute as well. Last year, we actually had people, 2 or 3, who somehow found the link to the old awards site. I don't even know what it was built in, and submitted awards applications through the old website. Those are not managed by us. They were set up by a past member recognition chair or committee member. We do not have access to be able to pull those down, and can't get contact with them to be able for them to pull them down. So just know that if someone submits an application and they did it on the wrong website, and they don't go back and submit that on the correct website, it will not be considered for awards. It has to be in the new Open Water system from the link on our website. Here are the general eligibility requirements for all of the awards. First of all, you have to be an active or life member in order to be eligible. You have to have been a member the year prior to applying for awards, as well as the current year, so that would be 2019 and 2020. That requirement is in place for most awards. However, you will see on some of the service awards, the requirements require more years of membership, and we'll go through each of those awards a little bit later. The membership status is determined using the NAE 4HA, I missed one, that should be NAE 4H YDP database, as of January 31st, 2020. And so I know that membership is coming in now, and John will be updating the membership for each state as he receives that membership dues. And so we will, be running a report to make sure everybody's paid their dues for the current year that is applying for awards. Multi-state entries are to be submitted in the state and region of the primary applicant. So whoever is filling out the awards application, that's the region and state that they should enter those awards in. We have edited the website for team members, for the fields for team members, to include your state and your region, so that if there are members of your team that work outside of your region in another state, perhaps it's a national team, and the members come from several different regions, that has been added so that we have that information accurately noted in the application. Some other basic awards criteria. The applications actually opened on the 14th instead of the 15th. So that was good. We got it open early. The applications are due by 8 a.m. Eastern time on March the 2nd. That is a Monday. So 8 a.m. on Monday, the 2nd of March. We moved it off of a Sunday, March the 1st, which is normally our due date in our timeline, but we moved it off of Sunday. So you'd have Sunday to finish wrapping up your applications. We will not accept any late entries, and the system actually has date parameters and time parameters in which we set. So it cuts off on its own the application period. If there are incomplete applications, meaning the application was not submitted by the person who started that application, even though they may have all of the information in there, by that deadline, it will not be considered for awards, because we sort by complete applications in order to assign judges to judge those awards. A separate submission must be submitted for each and every entry, and there should not be any duplication of the same exact application being used for two different entries. Entry materials need to be produced or completed between January 1st and December 31st of 2019. So the last year, that's when those programs should be completed, unless there's criteria within the awards application that states it should be a multi-year program, or it could be completed within the last 3 years or something. I don't think if there is any, there's maybe one or two that might have some parameters that it could be completed within the last 3 years, or because they want to see growth from one year to the next. So I did not pull that specific information, but just read your criteria very well as you review the awards information. Previous national award winners may not enter the same class in consecutive years. You may enter the next year. If you were a winner last year, you could potentially enter next year for the same particular category, but you should not be reapplying in consecutive years for the same exact award. And there's at least one award I know for sure that states you can only win the award once, and so make sure that you review that as well. Identical entries may not be submitted. I mentioned that already, and then we will definitely be trying to enforce all the rules and guidelines for each award strictly, and make sure that our judges have reviewed all of the awards criteria for the categories that they're judging.
Hey, Cheryl, we had a question regarding the reasoning behind not awarding consecutive years.
Honestly, I do not know the answer to that question. It was the policy that was in place when I came onto this committee. Melissa, do you have any history as to why?
No, it's been that way since I was a state chair probably 10 or 12 years ago. It may go back to some of our old 4-H rules that, like judging teams, you can't go to national contest more than once. I don't know. We would have to kind of review that. We can bring it up, I think, Cheryl, at our committee meeting in Idaho.
Yeah. Are you making notes? Will you write that down?
I will.
Okay, great. Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. We can certainly bring that up in our committee meeting and review that. To me, it's a way to keep the same people from dominating the award every single year. That's my personal guess as to why that rule may be as it is. Any other questions, Jim, before we move on?
No, well, there was one question, but I think I knew the answer to that. And the question was about, is there a way to see if the applications are complete or not? And I know when you go in the
Yes.
system, it actually does show complete or incomplete. So.
Yes, it does. We can look at that in a bit, and it'll be definitely covered on the next webinar this afternoon. Okay. Once an application is submitted and considered complete, you can't go back and add anything else to it. So for example, if you left a team member off or you forgot to attach something to your application, we cannot undo that and send it back to you to fix. So that's very important to make sure that you review your application thoroughly and that you've got everything included before you hit that final submit button. You can hit the save button at any time and then come back to that application later if you're unsure or you want to make sure that you've taken a break and want to come back and look at it again, make sure that you've got everything in there. Last year there was a mistake in how the specialty awards were set up with regard to team members. It was unlimited how many team members you could submit, and the rules actually stated that only 9 team members can be added to an application, so a total of 10 teams or 10 people. It was correct in the communicator awards but not in specialty, and so there was a few awards applications that had 15 or 20 people. And I don't know who the national winner was and who we did certificates for, but we did not go back and tell those applicants they had to take people off. We just left it and rolled with it for the last year, but it has been fixed for this year. So just know that that is a criteria that we are holding firm to, and it should be such that you will only be able to add up to 9 team members. All the national awards and regional awards are presented at the national conference. The national awards are presented at the banquet, regional awards at regional breakfast and brunch. Jim, I've not seen the schedule. I know we've had discussion about some of those national awards being done at general sessions. Is that the case? Do you know that information yet?
Yeah, I do. It will be normal, I can say, like it has been in the past.
Business as usual.
Business
Okay.
as usual for this year. That will be changing in 2021. We will have the communicator one day, specialty one day, and then the service awards of another.
Okay. So know that that change is coming, and that'll be during our anniversary year of the conference in Memphis. Unless stated in the specific awards information, the communicator and specialty awards will be judged at all levels, at the state, regional, and national level, and I'll go over which of those are only judged at the state and national level in a moment. So let's dive in.
Real quick,
Yes.
I have a question here. Somebody was asking about if you have an award area such as marketing, photo, and a press release on the same program, you cannot enter both. You must choose one, or as they're the same program.
There's a promotional package category that you can enter multiple items that are a part of the same program. So if you have a brochure for promotional for an event and you have an exhibit for the same event, those could be entered as a promotional package. So look at the package options under the communicator awards. Okay, communicator abstract. So there has been some conversation around what do some of those topics really mean with regard to the abstract and what you're supposed to include in the way of information. And so we have clearly defined what each of those things are that you're supposed to include in the abstract, and I'll show you the handout. And the information is also included in the Communicator Awards information packet. One thing that we did more clearly define in both the Communicator and Abstract Awards this year is that the abstract is a maximum of 3 pages for the Communicator Awards, and that's 8.5 by 11 inch pages, 1 inch margins, that's not on here, but that's normal. 12-point font. You can do single spaced if you prefer and you need more space, or you can do double or 1.5, whatever. Just making sure that you're using the right size font would be helpful. You will need to type your abstract in Word or whatever document source you choose, but you need to upload it in Word or PDF. So if you're typing it in something besides Word, you need to save it as a PDF to upload. We have taken out the text box option and only provided a link for you to upload that document. That seems to work better with regard to consistency and making sure people are not typing in more than what is considered 3 pages of text in a text box. So that is a definite change in how we've more clearly defined what's required in the abstract as far as the actual length of the document. There are additional requirements for each award in the information, and I'll pull that up and show that to you in just a minute when we finish going over these awards criteria for communicator. There must be examples of the work for communicator award attached to the application. So if you're entering the exhibit category, you need to upload a picture of that exhibit so that we can see what the exhibit looked like. If it was a news release, there's specific criteria that you need to submit, both the information that you submitted to the publishing entity and what they printed or published. So there, you got to pay attention to those particulars on each particular award. And we do encourage the use of newer technology such as podcasts, blogs, video, etc. And you'll notice in the new communicator packet that we have expanded one particular category from just radio to radio/audio award because we want to make sure we're including and putting on people's radar that if they're doing a podcast or things of that nature, that they certainly can enter those types of things. So these are the direct links to some of the documents. I'm going to change my screen here and share the actual documents with you so you can see. Wrong one. Here we go. Okay, first of all, I want to show you, can you see the communicator abstract tip sheet on the screen?
You've got the member recognition awards at a glance.
Now can you see it?
It's still that same one.
What is it?
Member recognition awards at a glance. Starting out with service awards.
Okay. All right, let me change here. Gotcha.
You have dual screens, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that can be a pain.
Okay, now you should be able to see the.
Perfect.
Okay, so Melissa actually developed this one-pager that more clearly defines what each section of the abstract for a communicator award should cover. So each of those topics, objectives, target audience, current population, publishers' requirements, methods used, production costs, impact results, information on the role of the applicant, and other information. All of those have been defined for you into this one nice little handout. All of this same information is also in the Communicator Awards packet right here under the specific information on page 2. So no worries, don't worry that you have to go back and forth. We just wanted a quick one-pager as well as it defined clearly in this particular area. So let's look at these specifically. So the objectives means what are the goals of your entry? What are you trying to accomplish with that particular communication piece? Your target audience is who do you want to use it, read it, listen to it? Who is that audience that you want that you're targeting? It could be a broad audience that was a resource you developed for all extension professionals in your state, for example, a new curriculum, or it could be a flyer specific to a day camp for 9 to 11-year-olds. So just be specific in the target audience that it's for. The current population is, well, how big is that population? Is it, if they're 9 to 11-year-olds that you're targeting for day camp, how many 4-Hers are 9 to 11-year-olds in your state or in your county that, that you're sending that information to? So just give us an idea of the population. If you know demographics, you're welcome to include that, but help us to understand how many people you're trying to reach with that information. Publishers' requirements refers to if you are working with a newspaper or a radio station or submitting to an online magazine, what are their requirements in how you submit that information? Do you just send, if it's a newspaper article that you're submitting to the local newspaper, do you just send them an email with a file attached of your Word document of your news article and any photos that go with it? Is there any specific specs that they have, meaning it can't be over 1,000 words or anything of that nature? Just tell us what those requirements are. If there are no requirements, tell us that so that we know the parameters in which you're supposed to be working in order to submit that to the entity that you're working with. The next section refers to methods used. So this means how did you develop this? Did you use a software like InDesign to develop a brochure? Did you use Canva online to develop a graphic or your flyer? Did you use what blog system did you use? What podcast? How did you record? Those are the types of things we just want to know some details about. What did you do to develop that particular communication piece? Production costs. There may not be a fee for you to pay for a brochure to be printed. You might have printed them in-house, but there is still a fee associated with that, meaning what would those office supplies cost if you had to print that at Staples or Quick Print or whatever? What was your time worth in how much time it took you to develop that particular resource? So don't devalue the amount of the value or the production cost of that particular item. It can be estimates of your time and what, based on your salary and those kinds of things. So if you worked on it for 5 hours, what is 5 hours of your time worth? So just use a little creativity to think through what it would cost if you actually had to print that particular item, as opposed to just posting it. If it's just an online resource and there's no printing cost involved, put that in your description that it's an online resource and there's no cost to print. So, and whatever other information that you can provide. Impact results. While sometimes there may not be any impact results available yet for that particular piece, for example, if it's just an informational piece, may not be a reason for you to evaluate or have impact results from that. But if it's an educational piece, for example, a lesson plan on a particular topic, and that lesson plan was used in your county, then there might be some impact results to share based on how that communication piece was used. So again, this is one that if it's known when you submit your entry, please include it. If it's not, just put there's no impact results known at this time. It could mean how many people you actually reached. For example, if it's that flyer promoting the camp for 9 to 11-year-olds, it could be you recruited 10 kids to participate in that day camp or whatever. So those could be impact results as well. Information on the role of the applicant is who was on the team, if there was more than one person, and what did each person do to contribute to the development of that item. Other information, if there's something else that you still have room to share that could help the people reviewing those awards applications better understand your entry, feel free to add any other information that you need to. Questions about those particular descriptions? Excellent. Okay, so let me click back over to the big document for the Communicator Awards. You'll see that what was in the PowerPoint is directly off of this particular document. The eligibility was there for general eligibility, general application for all awards. That was in the PowerPoint, and then here's that specific information regarding the Communicator Awards that we just went over in that presentation. So let's look just briefly at these are the list of Communicator Awards. Please note that unless it says individual and team categories, there is only one award given. So for example, with Exhibit, there will be one award, whether it's an individual entry or a team entry. They're all judged against each other. For Educational Package, there are two options on the application to mark an individual if it's only one person that prepared that package versus a team entry. So depending on whether you mark individual or team or select individual or team will determine what the rest of your application looks like. If it's individual, there won't be any spot for you to put any team members in. If it's a team, then that field will be available for you to add your team members. So there will be two awards given, one for individual and one for team for Educational Package, and the others that you see noted there. And again, the change here, really the only change in verbiage here is the change from on number 12 from radio to be radio audio program. Okay, let's look at one of these particular categories. So here is what I mean by additional information specific for this particular category. So these are the things that I consider to be the additional information. So for this particular one on Educational Package, it says must consist of two or more components of the Communicator Awards and be an educational in nature, not promotional. There will be 3 spaces provided on the application to upload materials. If you have more than 3 different items, you may need to combine items into no more than 3 PDFs. So if your package includes 5 pieces, combine some of those so that there's no more than 3 attachments, because we have no way of knowing how many pieces people might use. Most of the time it's 2 or 3, so we did 3. But if you need more, just know that you can combine those into one PDF and attach them all together, or group them, like if you had 2 different brochures, you could put them together in one PDF and use those in one of those spaces. So the other question I got last night was, what does it mean by 2 or more components of the Communicator Awards? That is simply this list. These are the Communicator Awards. So of all of these things that are individual, an educational piece, an exhibit, feature story, media presentation, news story, periodical publication, personal column, promotional piece, radio program, published photo, video program. Of all of those, you got to have at least 2 of those items to make a package. Same for promotional package. You got to have at least 2 of those items to make a package. So it's still within the communicator world of these categories. Just pull your items from those particular lists. Does that make sense? That was a really good question last night. Excellent. Okay. So this one says abstract must include the cost of production and sources of funding. So just making sure whether it's applicable or not to your particular project, fill out something in every section of that abstract, even if it is there was no cost to print this publication. However, if we printed it for 1,000 copies, this is what the estimate would be, or this was what my time was in value to develop this, but there was no cost for printing because it was an online document or whatever. So, and if there's funding, if it was a grant, you can list that information about that grant. If there's no funding source and you're listing what your value in time was, you can just list that it was the funding comes from your salary through county and state funding or whatever the case may be. So just answer every one of those questions and you'll be in good shape. All the components must be utilized as one unit, lesson, or program. So for example, you can't have a promotional package, which one is this? An educational package that's one piece is from the personal development curriculum and another piece is from an exhibit for the Get Fit for Life program, and another piece is a published photo from 4-H camp. Those are three totally separate events. They're not related. All of these pieces for an educational package or a promotional package need to be for the same event. Does that make sense? Excellent. Okay, and so if we've tried to provide opportunities for you to upload files like audio file, video file, if it's a PowerPoint, PDFs, Word, whatever, any kind of file format can be used to upload your documents. We've also added some link fields, and I'll show that to you on the screen in the next webinar. A field where you can just place a link in there to a website where your video is posted on YouTube, or your publication is posted to your state website, or whatever it is. Those fields have been added to make it easier for you to provide that information. Last year we didn't have those link fields, and we were having to tell people just put the link in a Word document and put in there, here's the link to the online publication or whatever, and attach it as an attachment in one of those fields. Hopefully this will help this year for those things to be easier for you to link to. Okay. And then each one of these awards has the score sheet that's associated with that particular award. Yesterday I went through all of those online and made sure they were consistent with one another. And one thing we did add to the online score sheet this year is a place for comments for every single award category. It was kind of sporadic last year as to whether or not comments were there. We did not last year provide the score sheets back after all judging, state, regional, national judging. We did not provide those back to the award applicants, and this year we plan to do that, but it will not be until after all the judging is completed. We know everything is correct. So maybe in July, we will send an email out that your award applications can be accessed again, and you can see what the results, what your actual scores and comments were. I'm not going to go through all of these categories unless you have specific questions about a particular category, because they're all pretty similar, pretty straightforward, I think. And you'll see that on these where we feel like a link was needed, we've noted that in the description. So hopefully that will help clarify which ones have links added and which ones may not be necessary. But I think for all communicator, we added the link option. Any questions about communicator? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing that again and go back to my PowerPoint. Okay. There was questions. Last call. Okay. All right, let's move on to specialty awards. So specialty actually has kind of two separate documents that are required. One is called an abstract, which is just an overview of no more than 150 words about your particular entry. The other is the narrative, which is the longer document that covers all the criteria for that particular award. So, for example, the abstract, I think, has been used in the past for the printed program. The last few years, we've not done abstracts or descriptions of the winners' awards in the printed program. Only the service awards did we use their little bio. So I think that's where that came from for an abstract to be used, but it's also a good little synopsis overview for the judges as to what they're about to review as a whole before they dive into the rest of that application. There are separate links to upload those two documents, or separate spots to upload those two documents. So just type them in two different documents so that it's very clear that you've provided both of those pieces of information. We'll look at that more in detail in the next webinar. We have standardized for the specialty awards the same narrative criteria.
By the way, the PowerPoint's not showing up for some reason.
Oh, crud. Okay, hold on. Oh, I have to hit the share button, that's why. Okay, now can you see it?
There we go.
Yay, okay. Let me go back, make sure there's nothing. Okay, that was the questions. All right. Okay, so we've more clearly defined and streamlined all of the narrative requirements for all of the specialty awards. The exception to that is the first-time attendee. I'll go over that when we get to that particular award. So all specialty awards are 3 pages max. Same other criteria, 8.5 by 11 pages, 1.1 inch margins, 12-point font. You can use single spaced, 1.5 space, double space, whatever you need to be able to fit all of your information onto that document. And again, it needs to be in Word or a PDF format. If you choose to develop that in Publisher or something, just make sure you're saving it in PDF to upload to the file. It just makes it easier for judges to be able to review. The next thing is that some awards may require additional documentation, such as letters of support, samples of materials, etc. If it's not there, if that additional required documentation is not there, they'll be disqualified. If it's optional, they will be judged as if they're complete, because optional means it doesn't have to be provided if they don't have that type of information. There's only 1 or 2 that are like that. So most have required information there that's required in the application. And again, we want to encourage newer technology, so make sure that you're encouraging those types of entries, podcasts, blogs, videos, etc. Within that. But I'll caution you to say, with the specialty awards, those are more about programming and less about communication pieces. So if it's truly programming, you have an online course, yes. So, but anyway, just think through that with regard to the technology portion. Is, would it fit better in a communicator entry versus a programming entry under specialty? Okay, and then let's go look at the awards criteria. Okay, I'm going to try this again. I can't get the... Okay, let me switch screens and go back to... Okay, can you see the specialty awards on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so similar to the communicator awards, it looks a lot very similar. This first page is going to be the same with eligibility and general application information. Here is those general requirements where we talked about the abstract, the narrative, and other specific awards information. There were a few applications in the past that said they could have up to 4 pages for the narrative, or only 2 pieces of documentation, or 4 pieces of documentation, and we standardized that for everything to be 3 pages for the narrative, 3 pages of supporting materials. If they had an additional support letter or something along those lines, then those accommodations were made, but just know those things have been standardized a little bit in some of those awards that had something different than what was standard before. The awards categories are the same as they were before. All of the categories, both team and individual entries, are submitted to the category and judged against each other. There is no individual award and a team award for any of the specialty awards. Only 25 awards are given. Okay. The military partnership is a little bit different than most of the others, so I'm gonna skip over it and go to the next one. So beyond youth leadership, this is one that I think you can only win once. Yes, here's the award criteria. And it has a $1,000 award attached to that. So here in each of those awards, you will see required criteria. Well, let's start at the top. You'll see the sponsor of the award. A lot of these have working group or a committee that are sponsoring those. If they're not, then they're sponsored by NAE 4-H-YDP. And then this one is co-sponsored by National 4-H Council. They're the funding source, and they provide the plaque for that particular award. The purpose of this particular award, if there's any specific eligibility for that award, and then the required criteria specific to this award. So this application says that within your 3 pages of narrative, you need to answer these questions. And I'm not going to read through these verbatim, but this is the portion that you need to pay close attention to with regard to what's really required in the narrative portion of your application to make sure you're meeting the criteria of that award. And then the score sheet is also provided, so you can see how each section of the application is weighted, and that will help you know where to focus your energy and time in those particular applications. Here's another example. I'll go through one more. The Citizenship in 4-H Youth Development is sponsored by the Citizenship Working Group, and Rickstein Recognition provides the plaque for this particular award. They do quite a few of the specialty awards. Has the purpose, is really related to helping kids to learn citizenship and practice that. And then here is the criteria specific to this particular application. And then you'll notice here, supplemental materials, 3 pages. And there's no letter of recommendation required for this particular award. So just make sure you're reading thoroughly the specific requirements for each award and looking at the score sheet to make sure you understand what's going to be looked for in the application. Any questions about specialty? Okay. Let me get the sorry, I had to go back and now I can share screen. Okay, now can you see the PowerPoint?
Yep, it's all good.
Okay. So Okay, so here are the state and national, the awards that are only judged at the state and national level. The Military Partnership Award, folks who apply for that have to be directly working with the military program in their area, state. That's pretty narrow, focused award, but it does have some money attached to it. The Denise Miller National 4-H Innovator Award is sponsored by JSEP. And it is only judged at the state and national level. The Life Member Award, also only judged there in Susan Barkman Research and Evaluation. Of those four, Denise Miller by far has the most applicants. And in the future, we may look at bringing in regional judging for that, because there was almost 20 applications, I think, and that's a lot for one team to have to evaluate at the national level. So Melissa can write that down. We can add that to our list of things to talk about in the future since it's grown. Here's the list of awards with money. The Military Partnership has $1,200 travel stipend, and that comes from the military programs. You must attend the conference in order to receive those awards or that award money. It's reimbursed after the conference, and you can use it to for your travel, to help offset your travel. The Beyond Youth Leadership is $1,000, sponsored by 4-H Council. Their requirements for the sponsoring entity is that you provide a program video if you cannot attend, and they use that as a part of a workshop or their sometimes poster session that they sponsor. Denise Miller is $250, sponsored by JSEP. Geospatial has $750 that they have to present, and I can't remember the company that provides that funding. The Life Member Award is $500. Excellence in Workforce Development was a new one actually last year, and we were able to go back and retroactively, because it took us a while to get that money moved over to the national office. So that's a $100 award, and it's it'll be, that money is available for sure through the next few years. And then the FirstTime Attendee Scholarship is whatever the early bird registration for the national conference is, as long as they register by the early bird deadline. If they don't, they still only get the early bird deadline registration fee.
I had a quick question about the FirstTime Attendee Award.
Okay.
So I was working on that the other day, and it's under the specialty award category and on the system. And so if you look at the requirements and everything, it says that you have to fill out your basic information and then fill out the three questions that are essay questions that are listed there. And I did that, but also is automatically set up where you had to do the narrative and the abstract in order to be able to submit it, sort of like the rest of the specialty awards.
Okay.
So is that a mistake or?
Yes.
Like?
Yeah, it is.
So yeah. What I did is I just went in there just to make sure it was filled out. I just put my essay responses on a PDF, and I uploaded a couple extra times. That way they definitely have it. Is that okay?
Yes, and I'll talk to I'm sorry, I'm making a note here, trying to write and talk at the same time. I'll call and see if they can fix that or not, whether or not they can take those fields for attachments down. And if they take them down, as long as you typed it also in the text box, you'll be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. So thank you for pointing that out. I totally missed it. Okay, so here are the criteria for applying for FirstTime Attendee. You can have attended a conference as a guest, not a paid member in the past. However, if you have paid your dues and attended the conference previously, the national meeting, you are not eligible anymore for the FirstTime Attendee Award. So as far as membership requirements, you do not have to have been a member last year in order to apply for the 2020 scholarship, but you do have to be a member in 2020 by January 31st, 2020. So that's really that's a different criteria from all the other awards. This award is judged at the state and regional level only. And there are up to 4 scholarships available per region to attend, help you offset expenses for the conference. And it's reimbursed following the conference at the early bird fee. Few other things related to the first-time attendee. One thing that has changed for 2020, and I'll tell you the reasoning behind that, is we are allowing state member recognition chairs to move forward both your first and second place first-time attendee applicants. If you have more than one, you can submit your top 2 forward. The reason why is, for example, I'm just going to use a real example. In the West region, there were only 4 total applicants from 4 states who submitted a first place winner for the first-time attendee. At least one of those 4 declined the scholarship because they weren't able to go to the conference. There was no one else, no second place recipients. Because of the way the rules were written, we couldn't pull a second place recipient up, and there were no alternates to be able to pull from first place winners to offer them a scholarship. And so that scholarship actually went to another region's alternate that they had available, so that we could fill all 16 slots. The regional directors decided they wanted to make it more equitable for all the regions to be able to try to fill all 4 slots. So that's why there is a change to allowing both the first and second place recipient or winners, state winners, to be submitted forward. However, this is the process they'll use for judging. They will only judge the first place winners for the 4 awards to begin with. They will then contact the winners, find out if they're going to go to the conference, get confirmation. If there are still spaces open, say they had 4 applicants again, 3 said they were going to attend the conference and they had 1 open space. Then they will take the second place winners, they will judge the second place winners, pick the top 1, and they will offer an invitation to them to attend the national meeting and receive the scholarship. If they decline, they'll go to the second place. If they decline, they'll go to the third place winner of the second place applications. I know it's a little confusing, but basically it's a 2-tiered process. They'll start with first place, judge all of them, extend invitations, and go from there. If their space is still open, then they'll look at the second place winners. But second place winners will not be considered unless all of the options for first place winners have been exhausted. Any questions about that process?
So Cheryl, there's a question. So you could actually have 2 winners from the same state.
You could, yes. Exactly right. Last year, I think what ended up happening is there were 3 of the 4 regions that only had 4 applicants, and 1 region had like 8 or something. And so I think 2 of the regions had got all 4 of their people said yes. 1 region did not. So they had an opening, and that opening ended up going to another Southern region winner, the first alternate, to fill all 16 spots, because they did not want to leave money on the table and not encourage someone to participate in the national meeting. Okay, so any other questions about first-time attendee? Honestly, I don't think there's a need to look at the document. It's exactly verbatim what I had on the screen, but if you need me to pull it up, I can show it to you. Let's go on. What time is it? Oh yeah, let's go on, because we're almost to an hour, and I was going to try to stay to an hour, and it ain't going to happen. Okay, service awards. First of all, service awards are not judged at the regional or national level. They are only judged by you at the state level. So the service award category is not even visible to you to be able to add your state winners yet. It will not open until April the 1st, once your state entries are judged. Okay, so just for simplicity, we will not open the service awards until April the 1st, or when we open for regional judging. Okay, so the only thing we require from a state for your service award winners is this information: your name, the name, address, state, region, and email, a short 25 to 50 word bio, and a photo. And that bio and photo are used in the printed program for the banquet. Each state creates their own awards criteria and requirements for their service award winners. Some states have a little resume. Like, I can speak for Oklahoma. They submit a little 2-page resume and their bio and photo, and that's all they're required to do. And those are judged by the state judges in the areas where they have to judge them. In the other states, their membership votes on who their service award winners are, or they have a selection process that's totally different. And so that's why it's at the discretion of each state to determine who their state winners are and collect their state applications in the way that they see fit. None of the state applications for service awards are put online until their winners are selected. So you have to have your winners selected by April 1 so that the state member recognition chair can enter the service award winners on the website. Late or incomplete entries will not be considered for those awards. So between April 1 and May 1, those state service award winners must be entered on the online system by the state contacts. Otherwise, they won't be considered for those awards. And we had issues with that last year. So it's really important that state contacts know and understand this information. So if you're not the state contact from your state, but you are working with them with regard to the awards program, please make sure they know and understand that. And then I can pull up the state service awards information, but this is verbatim what is on the document itself. So we'll go through this that's on the screen instead of pulling the document up. So the ASA, Achievement in Service Award, is for our younger members. Each one of these has slightly different criteria, so make sure you're paying attention to each particular award in the document. Dues are required for 2 consecutive years prior to the current year, so 3 years of membership, including the current year. They have to have served more than 3 years, but less than 7 years as an extension 4-H youth development professional. The ASA quota is based on paid membership as of January 31st, 2020. So in the next statements, for example, it says for every 50 paid members or part thereof, you get 1 ASA. So if you have 52 members, or if you have 1 to 50 members, you get 1 ASA for your state. If you have 51 to 100 members, you get 2 ASA, and on up the ranks. The same is true for the DSA award. The same criteria as far as how many awards a state can receive. I will have work with John to pull a report after January 31st to see how many members each state has. And last year I was able to email a report to all the state contacts to say, this is how many ASA and DSA members you are eligible for. So, and I will do my best to send that information out again. So for DSA, again, the same criteria, 2 consecutive years prior to the current year, so 3 years of membership, but they have to have been in service to 4-H programming for more than 7 years. Okay, and then the same, we've just talked about the quota. So that one's 7 years or more. Service award for MSA, Meritorious Service Award. This one requires the immediate 4 years prior to the current year. So 5 years basically of membership for MSA. And they have to have 15 years of extension 4-H youth development experience. And they must have received or demonstrated innovative youth programming and leadership in NAE 4HA at the state, regional, or national level. And the last one is they have to have received the Distinguished Service Award prior to applying for MSA. And there is a place on the application for you to type in the year that you received the award. And I don't know if you've gone and filled out your profile for the new year on the website yet, but now there are fields at the bottom of your profile page that ask if what date did you win ASA, DSA, MSA. If you've won any of those awards, you put the date in that you received those awards. I didn't know the exact date of 3 of those awards that I received them. So I just put October 15th, 1994 and got the year right, because it requires you to put the full date, not just the year. I knew one of them because I could go back in my calendar that far, but I didn't know the others. But I just used a date in the middle of the month that for the year that I received that award. And on MSA, each state is eligible for only one MSA. And then the last one is the Service Award for 25 years of service. This one is the same as meritorious service.
Hey, Cheryl, sorry, we had one quick question. Is it 7 years or more or 8 years and up? ASAE is 3 to 7 years.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one that needs to be clarified. I mean, it probably should be 8 years or more because the other one is 3 to 7 years. Melissa, do you agree with that?
I always take that as once you've completed 7, you bump up. So that's why it's 3 to 7 years completed. So yeah, we probably just need to make that wording change. I'll make a note.
Okay. Okay, good question. Okay, so service award for 25 years is 4 years of consecutive membership plus the current year, so 5 years. And then just 25 years of extension experience in 4-H youth development, and there is no limit to how many 25 years of service awards can be given for a given state or unit or territory. So anyone that applies are eligible to be recognized. Any other questions about service awards?
Cheryl, in the chat, somebody says, is that wording changed this year? I think everything will be just as presented for this year, correct?
Yeah. It's too much trouble to try to change things after awards information's already been posted, and so we'll just make it a note. We've not had any trouble with it before. Most of the time people interpret that to mean when it says more than 7, that should be 8.
And then, Cheryl, we have another comment in the chat that says, is it 8 years as of when? January 1st, 2020 for the ASA. So we base that off of the membership date, right?
I'm looking back. We've been kind of loose in that it's some people look at it as their start date with when they became employed with extension. Some people interpret that to be 7 years based on their years of membership in the association, but they may not have been a member for 7 years within the association. So to me, it's based on your start date for when you started extension. Does that make sense? But it would need to be consecutive. So if you went to work for extension and then you left extension after 3 years and then you took a break for 4 years and then you came back, to me, it should be consecutive, but it doesn't state that. So that's something else that we might need to clarify. Like more than 7 years consecutively. Any other questions about service award? Okay, let me take you to the website very quickly just to show you where things are posted. Ooh, I don't know where the. Hold on a second. I'm not sure I even have that visible where I can. Where's the web here? That's the wrong thing. Sorry. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm having trouble seeing everything on my screen the way I should. Okay. Okay, now I got it. Now do you see a Zoom logo on the screen?
Yep, you're all set.
Okay, okay. So this is the NAE 4HA website, the main page. To get to the awards program page, you go to participate, scroll down to awards, and then over to application. So I want to tell you what these other things are so you'll know what they are. This is the national service is the list of past national winners, and it's just literally a list, okay? And so on down that list, okay? But if you click on application, then this is where everything pertaining to this year's awards program will be posted. So we'll click over to this in a second, but this is the link to get to the online award system, the links to our webinars we're doing, and then here is all of the awards criteria. All of them are in PDF except for the member recognition at a glance document, which is designed specifically for state contacts to be able to add your state specific awards to. So your details on how they apply for their service awards, and if you have other state only awards, you can add that to that Word document. If you prefer to use these other documents and need a Word document format instead of PDF, you can email me if you don't have Adobe Pro to be able to convert it to a Word document. Down here are those same pages, these first few are those same pages that are also linked on the other part. But here is the actual winning applications for last year's awards, the national winners. So if you open it, they're not pretty in any shape, form, or fashion. It's exactly what the judges look at when they see these awards. So this one's educational piece. So if you want to know what others have done in the past winning applications, the communicator and specialty awards are listed for you there. And we'll try to keep all of this up there all the time. For some reason, there was just big miscommunication between me and John, but we finally got it right and put back up there this week correctly. So we're good to go. Any questions about the awards site? I'm not going to click over to the application site because we're going to cover that in its entirety in the next webinar. And it's already 10 after 12, and I want you to have a break if you're planning to do the next webinar. So if there's no other questions, any other questions on the chat, Jim?
Yeah, you're all good.
Okay. We will definitely post this recording, and I'll post the PowerPoint after I update the NAE 4HA in several places that I noticed. I'll get that updated, and we'll post these following these webinars. I'm not sure if they'll be posted today, but for sure next week we'll get them posted so that if you have folks in your state that want to watch the recordings, they'll be able to do that. Please let me know if you have specific questions that you didn't ask here today. My email will be on the PowerPoint that'll be posted on the website, but it's pretty simple, cheryl.newberry@okstate.edu. Okay, thanks for joining. I appreciate everybody participating today. Have a great day.